welcome to Built Between the Lines.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, we discuss discipline, faith, leadership, resiliency, those things that we do when nobody's watching that builds the unshakable character. So, welcome, Sharon St. Clair.
Thank you, Ben.
Howard Hanna Real Estate.
Yep.
Luxury.
All Howard Hanna, but including, and not limited to luxury, yes.
Absolutely.
Including, but not limited to, yes.
Yes. How are you today?
I'm wonderful, Ben. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for coming on. I'm
very honored to be here.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I mean, I think, when this idea came about to do this, finally, it was, you start thinking about who you would want to come on and share their stories, right? And you were right there, right out of the gate.
Thank you.
The way that you conduct yourself in this industry of real estate, you have one of the pieces that's lacking here across the board is integrity. And I think that you, in everything that I've seen you do, right, you come from a place of that. You come from a place of integrity in everything that you do. I've seen you represent multiple clients across the board from all different walks of life. And, your attention to their situation and their detail is something that needs to be seen more in our industry. And you have it. It's innate in you to do that. So I'm honored you're on here to talk about that.
We're fiduciaries, Ben. You're a fiduciary. I'm a fiduciary. And that has a lot of meaning, and it has an enormous responsibility. And it's when someone trusts you with what you and I do, and the implications and the process of how we make decisions, and the advice and then the advocacy. Once they've made a decision, I go into the role of being an advocate to support that decision. And as a fiduciary, and this, it's, a lot can happen. A lot goes on behind the scenes, but there's a lot of things that can happen unexpectedly. And it's not what is happening, but how we're going to deal with that and how we're going to solve and bring them to that successful conclusion. And that's where you and I, in your organization, which is so well-oiled, and I speak so highly of them to other agents and to clients, we come together because I know that fiduciary duty is going to be met and fulfilled. And I can relax. And I'm an A-type, so for me to relax is not an easy thing. So, yes.
Yeah.
I have full faith and confidence.
Yeah, I appreciate that because, Dylan was just here, so our entire organization, top to bottom, in between, one of our pillars in Avenue Close is integrity.
Yes.
And you inevitably, you want to be able to get that word out and have the opportunity to showcase,
yes,
what we're about day in and day out, transaction to transaction, regardless if it's 11,000 or 11 million.
Correct.
Right. We're doing
100%.
Exactly the same thing, regardless of the monetary value behind it.
Right.
So sifting through this whole entire market that we're in, because you're on both sides of the transactions a lot. Yes.
Never as a dual agent, Ben.
Yes.
Right. I I represent buyers and sellers, but never in the same transaction. Mm-hmm. I just wanted to
go down that. Yeah, absolutely. Because I wanted to bring that up a little bit too. We had someone else on here talking about the dual agency side of it. Yes. I'd love to hear your side of it because, for the people who don't know, what that means, right? In a transaction as a real estate agent, there's one normally that represents the buyer, and there's one that represents the seller.
Right.
Right. And in some cases, there's the realtor accepting the seller representing them, but inevitably they want that buy side too.
Right.
Right. Because it means more commission.
Right.
Right. Dual agency means you're not splitting that with anybody else.
Correct.
Right.
The agent wins.
The agent wins.
In a dual agent situation, when the agent, and it's legal in Pennsylvania, So we're talking about Pennsylvania, and Pennsylvania dual agency to represent a buyer and a seller at the same time is legal. Because of my background as a former practicing attorney, and just my personality, I'm very much an advocate. And assuming a fiduciary role, I never want a client to question which team I played for. I have one color to the front and another color to the back. And because of the nature of being a full faith fiduciary, which is something that is I've been a fiduciary for decades in my career. It's something that I take to heart and take very seriously. So when I onboard a client, I'm onboarding them as a seller. And if a buyer steps forward and wants to purchase that property, they can absolutely do that. And they have multiple options. They can get an agent, they can get an attorney, or they can go unrepresented. But I will never advise, and that's where the line is. I do not advise. I only advise one client I have a fiduciary relationship with in any transaction. So there is never a question of, did I have a favorite? Was there confidential information? And because real estate has so many windows and opportunities for a conflict, an inherent conflict to arise, how do you navigate that? It is legal, and there are people that can do it, or do it, I shouldn't say. They do it, and it's fine. But for me, that is very much a personal decision. And I get referred by a lot of attorneys, other agents that ask me to handle clients and things like that, because they also don't want to be a dual agent. But they want to make sure that the party has representation, because I am a firm believer that is something as important as real estate, whether you're going to live there or whether you're considering it an investment. You need quality representation, and you need someone to give you as an advisor, as a real estate advisor at our core. You know, our job as a fiduciary and a licensed real estate agent is to understand the spectrum of things that can come up, so that we can properly advise. We can give options and then provide solutions. Where it turns into, the fiduciary flips into becoming an advocate. So I'll give you an example of dual agent, of where I could see a conflict, and I can, real life stories. Once they've taken a decision, we now go into the role of supporting that and advocating that position. We always want to be aligned with our clients. We are the advisors, they are the decision makers, but they are relying upon us from our experience, our education, our knowledge, to be able to guide them, give them solutions, get them to that goal line. But let's say we have a situation, and I just dealt with this last night at 1 o'clock in the morning. With a client.
It happens at 1 o'clock in the morning in real estate. Yes.
Of course.
Yeah.
Real estate's 365, 24/7. Okay, so we're not on 9 to 5. If you have a situation where I'm in a multiple offer and we're going to get really creative when I leave here and I'm going to write this offer, we could deal with an appraisal issue. That house may not appraise. Well, if you represent a buyer and a seller, how do you deal with it? How do you navigate that? And, in my experience, that puts you in a potential conflicting information, because how I advise you as a seller will vary to how I advise a client who is a buyer. And these are your options, and this is how we should proceed. And in the market that we're in Western Pennsylvania, which is a fabulous place to be, Pittsburgh is such an amazing place to be from and come back to. Our market it's very robust. Other parts of the country are not doing as well as we are. I think the statistic was that we're the second highest appreciating market in the United States. So we are continuing to see the value continue to trend up. We're still waiting for inventory, and depending upon how a house is positioned. And, when I spoke to the agent yesterday, he said, Sharon, we had 150 people at the open house. I said, oh, great. How many offers? What are we up against?
Yeah.
Let's go win. Yeah, let's go win.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. No, I'm glad we hopped right into that.
Yeah.
Because I think that, you know, duplicity doesn't belong like in our industry, right? And I think if you're going to be on both sides of it, you can't represent, like you said, accordingly from one side or another.
So a former CEO that I worked with said, he goes, he's the CEO of a very highly regulated entity on Wall Street. He said, I don't have two sets of books in my head. I
Right.
can't keep two sets of books.
Mm-hmm.
And in an adult agent situation, you are,
Mm-hmm.
because you are entrusted with confidential information. And you have to understand the nature of that, the significance of it. Does it get disclosed? Is it required to be disclosed? Or is it a lever, a positioning? And positioning means, because I'm asked to speak to the top 1% of agents across the United States about the art of positioning and becoming a positioning expert. And so, when you're talking to clients, and things can always come up, and maybe something arises on a personal level in the middle of a transaction. It's very personal to them.
Mm-hmm.
And all of a sudden, their position has changed. They might be more vulnerable. And I represent both sides. I'm now conflicted. Which side am I going to listen to? I just found out information that can help this side, but yet I represent both.
Right.
What do you do with that?
Exactly.
I don't even want the question.
No.
One side, that's it. And I'll know exactly what to do with it. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's a great point there. But so you said, we also, as the title company, we also have fiduciary responsibility to all parties involved, right?
Absolutely.
Not just one. We're not representing just one.
Correct.
Well, I mean, if you want to really break it down, I get this question a lot. Like, you're representing the buyers. Nope, we're not. Nope, we don't represent the buyers. We don't represent the agents. We don't represent the lender, right? We represent our underwriter. So that's where we are in this set, right? We are an approved agent for our underwriters. We have to so we have a fiduciary responsibility to them. So in a transaction, we are fiduciary to all parties involved, right? We represent Old Republic. Or and any other underwriter that would be out there.
Yes.
Right. So we have that responsibility first and foremost. So you said something in there. I think I want to go to this. You said your entire life you've had that fiduciary responsibility.
Yes.
Right. So, and practicing law.
Yes.
At the same time. Did you come right out and you were a real estate agent? Like whenever you're in your career, day one? Like while you were practicing law, were you a real estate agent at that time as well too?
No.
Okay. So take me on that journey. Like what? Because I think you can be taught how to have fiduciary responsibility, but it's innate in you from the beginning. Where does that begin?
So my background is I'm a former practicing attorney. So just for the record. When someone asked me, and they asked me to become involved in real estate, I am acting as an agent. I'm a former practicing attorney, and I never practiced in real estate. I served as counsel to a national stock exchange.
Okay.
And it was acquired by the NASDAQ. And so in essence, and then in the stock market, when you represent a stock exchange, that's the most regulated business on the planet. Because you have regulations at the state level, at the federal level, you are affecting the national markets. And so in that role, you have oversight by, auditors, internal and external. You have the board. I dealt with the Federal Reserve, the Securities and Exchange Commission. And so the decisions that are made, and every decision that's made inside of the national market system, because it's a very complicated regulatory framework that's in place, those decisions can take months of working with regulators and rule makers, because the protection and integrity of our national market systems is absolutely paramount to the cornerstone of how this country works. And so I was very fortunate because my law school professor was a securities regulation professor. He hired me as an intern. I was very fortunate because I'm just a poor kid from Pittsburgh and the only female with all of these Ivy League men from from top institutions globally, and, families that you recognize their name in the papers.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just very fortunate to be in the room, to be able to be given an opportunity to be an intern. And then from that experience, they hired me as an attorney. And I was the first attorney that they ever hired from that internship program. And I spent years there, and I loved it. I absolutely loved it.
Yeah.
It was the time of a life. It was the experience of a lifetime.
Yeah.
To see the inside of how the boardrooms of Wall Street work, to have cases come up before the U.S. Supreme Court, to see what you're working on enacted, and you see it, you're moving money in that situation, and you're moving institutional money, because you're not dealing with the retail public. These are institutions that are reconciling, in my case. So we were dealing with billions of dollars on a daily basis. So all of those decisions that were made in the boardroom, I never saw how it affected Main Street. I saw Wall Street, and I saw it at that level, but I never saw what the effect would be to the to the
Sure.
average person like
To
you
me.
and I.
Yeah.
Absolutely, yes.
Right.
And so, and then my mom became terminally ill, and I'm an only child, and I commuted back and forth. And one day I was sitting there on a Friday night with the general counsel and the CFO, and I was negotiating a large multi-million-dollar contract. And I just looked at my watch and I said, "Gentlemen," I said, "I'm so sorry. I have to be on a plane. I'm going to meet with a surgeon and I have to go." And I came in Monday morning and I tendered my resignation. And they said, "Sharon, we want you to commute," because I had spent a period of time commuting between Pittsburgh. And, I didn't even know where I was waking up half the time. And I said, "No." I said, I said, "My heart and my mind are torn. You're paying for my mind, but my heart is with my family."
Yeah. Yeah.
So I tendered my resignation, and I just trusted that that decision, which was the best decision I ever made in my life, because I only had one chance
Right.
to give back to somebody who had given to me,
Yeah. Yeah.
my entire life.
Yeah.
So it was an honor
Yeah.
to be on that journey with her.
Yeah. Wow.
And, when we think about real estate, and what I loved about law was the business side. I love the people side of law. I love doing the deals. I love the negotiating. Whether it's large or small, it doesn't matter. And I love the people component. I mean, I had attorneys that, helped me and reported, into me and things like that. But what I enjoyed was really the business side. Business is very intuitive. Why people do what they do with money makes perfect sense to me. So the thing that is so fascinating about real estate is an asset class is 4 times the size of the stock market. But it's far less efficient.
Yeah.
And so in real estate, we are moving money and managing emotions. And it's the emotional side that becomes quite interesting, because the decisions that we advise on, they're going to go to work for years to pay for the advice of the communications that we are giving them during this process. And that is an amazing and awesome responsibility to know that, we are going to help them to either come into or exit from a place where they have so much personally invested. Memories, not just dollars, it's memories. When a client's calling me and they've lived in a house for 42 years last week, and they're moving their things out and they're crying. This is where this took place, and this is my daughter's wedding in the backyard.
Yeah.
It's more than a home. It's more than an asset. It is the asset we control. It is the asset that it is our haven in the storm of life. And what an honor it is for us to be asked to help them at that moment in their life.
Yeah.
They deserve our very best.
100%.
So,
Yeah.
And someone who grew up poor and never had a house, and to go from, poverty to Wall Street and then back, come back to Pittsburgh. It has been an amazing experience and journey.
Yeah.
I wouldn't trade a day of it.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's amazing.
Because we are accumulation of our experiences. And it's not a question of what do we do with it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, my opinion of all that is like if, and I've said this on here a couple of times, but I truly believe it. To whom much is given, much is required.
Yes.
Amen.
Yes.
And that's how I go about every single day of my life.
Yes.
Because the journey that I have been on, again, everybody has their own journey. No journey is exactly the same.
No.
Right. So whether we're on a transaction here, I'm talking to my own children, I'm talking to, the kids that I coach, I'm talking to my staff, I'm talking to whomever it is, it doesn't matter.
Right.
Right. If there's one thing that I can say or just sit and listen to, then I am making sure that me getting through what I got through, that I'm justifying that. Right. I'm not letting it go away. I'm not wasting that opportunity. I'm not wasting that deliverance from whatever it was.
Yes.
And that's huge, because I mean, to hear you explain real estate, from whom you represent, is fascinating, as I've never heard anybody else explain it that way you just did.
Really?
Never. No, I have not. And that right there is that people might think it and their actions might align with that, but to articulate it, I've never heard it said that way. Never heard the articulation of the responsibility that you take on and you want to take on for your clients. And that's unparalleled. So yeah, that was good. It was good. Very good.
Real estate it's addictive. And I'm a workaholic and a type A to begin with, as everybody knows. And I wouldn't have it any other way. Because I know at the end of the day, and you know this from the clients that we've worked with, and we've had our clients together, as you know, we've represented Wall Street clients, the people, and that we've represented the luxury market. We've represented first-time home buyers and sellers, because you also handle, when I represent sellers, I want to make sure that there are certain platforms in place and certain metrics of service, because I'm very meticulous about that, of how I want the clients to have not only a good outcome, but a good experience. And that's one of the reasons that we work so well together, because you understand that and you really fulfill that in a magnificent way. The entire team at Avenue to Close, you have that on lockdown. And so when I make a representation to a client, this is what you can expect. I know that the deliverable is in place and will be there. I don't have to worry that it's not. But I can tell you that for most people, especially in the market and the environment that we're in right now, it's not just getting them to the successful finish line of what we call a closing, but it is the journey along the way, and that can become very emotional. And for some people, and there's so many parties that are involved in what we do, and they play in the background. So the public customer doesn't necessarily see it. And you have been very patient as, we first started working together, and I would call you and I would check in, because it's my nature to check in. How are things going? What do you need from me? And your group has been, and I've worked with a lot of title companies, and I'm very particular. And when people ask me, agents ask me, clients ask me, I say title is important. And this is why it's important. And I walk them through what can happen, because we've had some crazy situations that have unfolded.
Sure.
But we always win. We all, it's a question of how do you solve?
Mm-hmm.
So, working together has been absolutely fantastic. And you and Dylan and the entire team.
Yeah.
Have been amazing.
I appreciate you saying that, because I mean we do that. I mean, again, it's, we're behind the scenes on
And
the
Greg,
transaction.
don't let me forget
Greg.
I'm sorry.
Absolutely.
I'm sorry.
No,
Didn't
it's
forget
okay.
Greg.
But there's 10 more.
Oh, I know.
Right? There's 10 more
Yes.
behind the scenes, and but we're behind the scenes on a transaction as well too. But I appreciate you saying that, because everybody, we work very, very hard on putting out a better product every single day. And we work very hard on understanding the why
Mm-hmm.
of any transaction, right?
Yes.
We, as you know, emotions are high on the transactions.
Yes.
And I think the more that somebody who's in representation feels insecure about their knowledge,
Mm-hmm.
the louder they become.
So, in what I always like to say, and this is where I think we align so well, when I'm looking at taking on a client, whether it's a buyer or a seller, I'm evaluating things, because I always come from the place that I want people to be successful, whether it's working with me or not. I mean, if we're going to have the conversation
Mm-hmm.
about real estate, it's a big transaction. It doesn't matter what the dollar value is, because it's big to the person that's coming to me.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm looking at two things: outcomes, which are measurable metrics, and experience, which is emotional. How do they feel at the end of the journey? And I'm evaluating because it is a two-way street when you take on a client. Again, because if you come from the place that you want them to be successful, I want to evaluate what their goals are. Does it align into the market? Because I know I can deliver the outcome. But what kind of experience are they expecting? And, am I going to be the right person and the right fit
Mm-hmm.
to match what that is for them?
Yeah.
And if it's not, I want to make sure that I get them to someone who is a quality professional that can deliver that experience, that emotional side,
Mm-hmm.
not just the metric of outcomes.
Right.
I want both. I want my clients to have both.
Right. Right.
And that's why it's so important. So when we work together, I know the outcome is in place. I know that this is going to happen. And I want them to also be wowed by the experience, because people aren't wowed by the experience of lending and title and inspections and contract.
It's wild, but just not
just,
really in a great way.
No.
There's a wow factor involved in some cases.
It's a mystery. It's like
Right.
Title's like the Wizard of Oz.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
The man behind the
No one
curtain.
knows what
Pay
goes
no
on
attention to
behind
the man behind
the
the
curtain of the
curtain.
Wizard of
Right.
Oz.
Yeah.
And in the real estate transaction, when we do what we do, we're in constant coordination. At least as an agent, I'm quarterbacking
Mm-hmm.
all of those resources to get us down to that finish line. And so once we come together, we are all moving in the same direction.
Mm-hmm.
On one side, we have someone who wants to buy, and another side, we have somebody who wants to sell.
Yep.
So sometimes we'll do the heavy lifting, because we have 9,300 agents in our MLS.
Mm-hmm.
Approximately.
Yeah.
That fluctuates, that number,
Yeah.
right? And they come from, unlike my former life that required a certain level of education and years of, expense and
Mm-hmm.
taking the bar and all of those things, which was, wonderful. Real estate brings people in from all walks of life.
Yeah.
So with that said, one thing that I've noticed in real estate is agents. I've never met an agent that did not have good intentions, right?
The road to hell, right? Is that the parable there, the mantra?
But you don't necessarily know if this is their, the first time that they've ever, been involved in a transaction,
Mm-hmm.
or, if they're a seasoned professional. And just because you've been doing it a long time doesn't necessarily give you skill. Okay. And we're in a very skills-based market. So it's not just the experience, but there is a skill set, and it is a mindset. Real estate is a skill set and a mindset. It is the intersection of both.
Mm-hmm.
And in an optimal level, that is how you were serving your client,
Mm-hmm.
with the mindset for them to win and the skill set for them to get there.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Makes 100% sense to me. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so when I say we're going down the field, you always want to collaborate if it's in my client's best interest, which typically it is, that you always keep those doors open. Listen, if something comes up, call me. We're going to solve it together. We're going to work through it.
You have to have transparency in that situation.
Absolutely.
All across the board.
Of course.
All across the board. And we can't get into the the blame game on any of these things. That doesn't get us to the end result of all of this. From our stance and what we do, it's we have to understand the why going into this. We drill down to that. I mean, we've had countless team meetings on that. I'm at the whiteboard and I got a big why on the board. Like it has, if an agent's calling on the phone or a buyer or seller, like there's some bad news in the transaction. Maybe there's some kind of a lien that they weren't really aware of it, or they were, but they didn't let you know as the agent. Maybe there's some previous mortgage or something that takes place on the title side of it.
Or there's a change in someone's personal situation, which we've experienced together, and it can happen right before a closing.
Sure.
And again, we're dealing with legal statuses. And so what if someone's legal status changed, and now all of a sudden there's a right that someone has, an invested right into a property that we have to basically solve for 2 days before closing, because maybe they just got served with divorce papers.
Right. Yeah.
Okay, and we might need a spousal waiver. There's so many scenarios,
so many examples of
that can come up.
Right.
And it's, those moments, you're never tested in the lines. You're tested in the outer bands of, now what?
Right.
And that's okay too, because no matter what happens, it's like getting on a plane. I trust that when I board that plane, we have a flight plan and we're going to get there.
Right.
We might have some turbulence, and that's fine. But I know that pilot has a lot of miles, and we're going to get to our destination. So I look at, our relationship and my relationship with all of the other parties that are involved with clients the same way.
Yeah.
We're going to get there.
Yes.
We have our flight plan. We have the game plan in place. And there could be some variables, and that's why you always keep it open to the other side.
Yeah.
So that if something does come up, because people have different rapports with, for me, it's an absolute essential to have a good rapport with my client. And I say to them, I want you to think of me like your doctor or your attorney. Put all the cards on the table. Because I can only advise you with a full set, the full deck.
Right.
If you're holding anything back, I cannot properly help you. And because I never represent both sides, you don't have to worry about that. You don't have to worry about withholding information, because it could be used against you in the future with somebody else, because I'm maybe on both sides, and I would take that piece of information, and I know that you have a lever that gives you a weakness. We never have to worry about that.
Right.
So let's put our cards on the table. And if something comes up, that door 24/7 is always open. I need to know, because then I can properly advise you and we can solve for it.
Yeah, it's the same way on our end too.
Yes.
If something comes up that you're aware of, then we have to know immediately. But something that involves our responsibilities to deliver a clear and marketable title, we have to know that right away.
Yes.
It's the same in the communication happens to you in that very same vein. Right?
Yeah.
Title is great. And I get these calls all the time. It's like, oh, this is a cash transaction. Can you close in 10 days? And it's like, yeah, but maybe no. Right? And here's why. We can't control the municipalities and things like that. Right? But we know internally we can get something done in and out the door very quickly on the title side of it. However, things pop up. Right? Because I can say, well, I don't know what the seller situation is like until I run a full title search. on this, right? Including, recorder of deeds and prothonotari's office. I don't know if I can answer that question because we don't know what the seller is bringing to the table for us to have the requirements that we have to do to fulfill clear marketable title, issue a clean policy on this. So those answers come yes, but maybe no, depending upon our due diligence process here.
Yes.
Which we'll have that answer to you in about 72 hours, whether or not we're going to make the 10-day. And I think that's, being upfront in that communication is paramount to a long-standing relationship with somebody.
So the foundation that I have found that with real estate is absolutely the non-negotiable is trust. It's just trust. It is not transactional, it is relational. And that trust is expressed and it's implied. So with that comes transparency, because we're all learning and we're in this together. Iron sharpens iron. We're all human. Things can happen and we can get through this. So if something does occur, and it could be very plain and smooth sailing, and that's wonderful, and we have most of our stuff is. But we also know if we have some turbulence, we're going to be able to navigate that and get to the finish line as well. And I've never doubted that in working with you.
I appreciate that because that's part of what we do every single day too. I mean, if there's a situation that arises,
yes,
and we're not going to hit that date, or it appears there's some issues up front, we can, honesty would be to wait to tell you. Like if you call on the phone, how's my file going? It's like, oh, well, we have a bit of a mess here, right? That's honesty, right? Transparency is as soon as we find out there might be an issue, now we're talking.
Well, see, it's a matter of timing,
right?
So
there's a difference for me between honesty and transparency, right? That's where we fit into that.
Well, being proactive and reactive. We can all be reactive, but how do we become proactive? I'm not in real estate. Hope is not a strategy, and I'm not paid for good intentions. There is a measurable level of performance for all of us, and in that performance falls multiple aspects of being a fiduciary. So when you're proactive, Sharon, and we've had that situation, let me just fill you in. This is what's going on. As long as I know about it, it's very easy for me at that point because I am quarterbacking resources. How does that affect other parts of the transaction? Who do I need to be in communication with? Because we may have something come up. I don't necessarily think it will. We're going to go ahead and solve for that. But we've never been in a situation where it has not been solved. And because of my style of introducing myself so early to all parties, and I know I hold people accountable, but I do start with myself. I'm accountable.
Nobody's going to hold me more accountable to me than me.
Right.
That's just how it is.
Exactly.
Right. Fiduciary side, it doesn't really matter.
Right.
Any aspect of my life.
But that's the trust. And so if there is something that comes up, we're going to get through it. But we do have responsibilities to the other side.
Yeah.
And to, other parties, how this could play out. We've never had a situation where it did not get solved. And we have been through, to put this into context, as an agent who does a lot of transactions and who's entrusted to do some fairly complicated transactions, we've never not arrived to our destination.
Yeah.
And I'm really happy to be able to sit here after all these years and so many clients and situations and complicated ones, because of the nature of the kind of clients that come to me, because I am referred by the courts and other attorneys and wealth managers and public figures and things like that. So, and other agents, we've always gotten to the finish line.
Yes.
And that's why I'm so happy to be here today with you.
No, I am too, because I think that's, again, being behind the scenes on all of it, right? And you to a certain degree as well too. if there's other people involved in the transaction. So what your clients don't see is where it really shines in that side of it.
Yeah.
Right. Where they don't know. They just know that they got a certain level of stress about just buying a home or selling their home.
Mm-hmm.
But you entrusting us with your clients and the well-being of your clients, it's an honor to be in the same circle, right? Because, like I said, you running it with the side of the integrity that you do and the crossing of the T's and the dotting of the I's.
I try.
But you do. So, but for you to entrust us with not just your business, but the benefit of and the life of your client. I mean, that's what it's all about in this game. It really is. It's about getting in, like having that relationship with you and then your relationship with your clients. So it means a lot to us, because after all the years of doing this, now we can have those just open conversations about issues, problems, feedback from you. Right. Right. Well, this is a situation. How will we handle this? Do you want me to call or should we call? So we're collaborating behind the scenes.
To this point, after our time together, we've become a well-oiled machine.
Mm-hmm.
Because when I look at the vulnerabilities that can exist, statistically speaking, about 25% of all transactions terminate in our region. And actually now that's a more of a national statistic, which is kind of interesting. But so when I look at serving that client, and we're looking at, so there's always three pillars for me. There's the legal pillar, which is the fiduciary for me. There's the condition pillar, which is the one that's most vulnerable in our market, because Pittsburgh is considered statistically, and it's been published, that we are the most complicated housing stock in the United States from a condition standpoint.
Mm-hmm.
Because our housing stock in Pittsburgh is a wonderful city, but we have the freeze and thaw with our weather.
Mm-hmm.
We have some older housing, and we have sometimes deferred maintenance, which is one of the reasons that we've become such an investor mecca. And when I returned to Pittsburgh years ago, because again, I told you I like business,
Mm-hmm.
I had opened a company.
Mm-hmm.
It was an inspection company, like business. And when I formed it, and we went on and grew that and won national awards, but I came from, because I never had a house. And the first time I ever bought a house, I ended up in the first few weeks spending literally tens of thousands of dollars of things that I was not expecting. And I'm not saying that I wouldn't have purchased it, but it would have been a very differently
Mm-hmm.
negotiated deal.
Mm-hmm.
And so because so many things come apart because of condition. And so when we talk about being vulnerable and getting through that process of due diligence, on the inspection side, understanding condition, I'm not an inspector, but having run that company, I literally read thousands and thousands of reports.
Mm-hmm.
And was, contacted by a lot of attorneys and things like that. And I'm still involved with the industry as a whole, because I believe that people should have a very clear and complete understanding of condition
Mm-hmm.
when they make the purchase of a home. Because what you don't know, when you walk into that closing, you are either positioned for profit or you're behind the eight ball and you don't even know it.
Mm-hmm.
And I will tell you flat out, because I did not own a house growing up, and I grew up in an apartment and I was poor. So when I bought that first house, I didn't know anything.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't understand pride of ownership. I didn't understand anything. I was behind the eight ball and never understood it or knew it. And so when I formed that company, and then I grew it, one of the things that I was always so excited about is, on an annualized basis, we saved consumers in Western Pennsylvania over $50 million a year.
Wow.
And as an agent, I said, when I went to hang my license, I said, I believe people need quality representation, but I believe a very fundamental part of that is understanding condition, because it can affect you financially, physically, depending, because again, our housing stock is old and there's a lot going on there. And how do we manage that? And that can affect title because you're already underway and all of a sudden there goes a termination.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
So being at almost a zero termination rate, that's why when we're in multiple offer situations, understanding condition, I already know going into it what we can expect and how to manage that up front, not on the back end. Does that make sense?
No, it makes perfect sense. I mean, as far as I can speak to our, our termination rate, I mean, I think for us, over the years of running the business for all these, 15, here I am now, 15 years.
Wow.
So, we've done, we've been over 15,000 searches. We've seen that. I mean, we've funded over well over $4 billion of other people's money.
Wow.
In that time period.
That's amazing.
And, as part of that and understanding this and the way we do the those canceled transactions for us, there is some, I'm so sorry it's canceled. I'm like, hey, this is the cost of doing business, because I remember early on in my career hearing about other title companies. Well, we're not going to order title till inspections come back.
Right.
Like, we're not going to order is the appraisal back yet? And I'm scratching my head, like, why would you wait that long? So I'm like, well, okay, it might have been 2013 or 14. I'm like, I'm going to save money because I'm going to wait to order title until the inspection period is over. Right. So just one time I did that. And when the title came back, it was a bankruptcy. Oh. The seller did not disclose that to his agent or to anybody else. Right. So the one transaction that I waited on to order title,
Murphy's Law,
was one where it was a bankruptcy. So
good.
if you know bankruptcy, it was Chapter 13. We can get into details of that, but we need a court order. And then after the court order, wait 15 days. On day 16, we can close the transaction. Right. Right. If there's nobody who's, comes to the table and, but I did that one time and I never did it again because I was so behind on cleaning this matter up. I could never stop the time period of the court order. Right. But I was 10 to 14 days behind on the transaction. Well, so now as part of that was like, we will never wait until that as soon as we get it, we order it. Right. And for us, for something to cancel is essentially just the cost of doing business. But
this is where, and this is when I'm asked to speak about positioning and I'm talking with other agents. Your ratio as an agent, I'm not talking about you as a title company, because at that moment, you as a title company are impacted by the actions of an agent. You didn't pick the client, but you're going to serve that client and you're going to make an investment. I always say as an agent, I become an investor. So when I onboard someone, I am really at that point becoming an investor because time is very valuable to me. I cannot help everyone. And I have so many hours in the day, and I do have people, around me that are magnificent. But with that said, I make a very significant, because I am very detail driven. I already know what the bandwidth is, what is going to be required for that client to be successful. And so when I'm making those decisions and I'm becoming an investor, I'm evaluating where they are and what is the likely outcome and how motivated they are to win. Because if someone is content not to win, I'm probably not a good match.
Yes.
Because,
somebody is content to be content. Is that what it is? When I'm retained to take the field, I take that very seriously. I'm suited up to win. There's no other. It is a very myopic focus. And so for you're evaluating agents and their termination rate. So it is extremely rare when I see a termination. I'm not, it can happen, but it's almost zero. Right. And I think part of it,
because most situations do terminate because of condition.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, sometimes you will see the appraisals come through, but a lot of times, in most instances, it's because of condition.
Mm-hmm.
And Pennsylvania, when it comes to inspections, is not licensed. 33 states are. We're not.
Mm-hmm.
So it is somewhat a little bit of the Wild West
Mm-hmm.
in terms of how they are, what that process looks like. And as someone who's very actively came from the industry and very actively involved in, I was asked by InterNACHI to basically represent the agent side to the inspection industry a while ago.
Yeah.
Yes. And I was talking to one of my mentors last week, and in the space of real estate in North America, one of his companies touches 1 out of every 5 transactions that occur in North America. One of his companies is going to have some kind of involvement in 1 out of every 5 transactions that occurs in North America. He was my mentor when I came in.
Mm-hmm.
And, I feel so fortunate to be around such amazing people, because that's who you learn from.
Absolutely.
We learn from each other.
Absolutely.
Like I've learned from you.
Mm-hmm.
We all learn from each other.
Yeah.
But our clients deserve, and that's where I'm so happy to be here, because I want clients to understand that the decisions that they make when they go to purchase or they go to sell, who they select really matters. Because again, I've never seen the agent without good intentions.
Mm-hmm.
But we also have to be real in that, statistically speaking, it is the top 10%, and this is national, that do 90% of the business.
Mm-hmm.
But with that said, we're all in this together.
Yeah.
And I love our industry. I think we are I love working with different people, and no 2 days are the same, no 2 homes, no 2 stories, because real estate is a full contact experience. You're either in or you're out. This is not a neutral proposition, either for the client, for you, or for me.
Mm-hmm.
It's either to this or to this. There's nothing neutral about what we do day in and day out, especially, and it's easy to kind of lose sight of that, because we're kind of like, I remember when my mom was sick and I went into the oncologist and we were having this discussion, and at the end of the conversation, I just said, thank you. And he said, why? And I said, because in your job, you have these conversations 10 times a day, 20 times a day, whatever your client load is. But for the person sitting where we are, it's probably the first time in their life they've heard this.
Mm-hmm.
Probably the last.
Yeah.
So your compassion in delivering that for us means everything. And I think that when we're actively working on the business side, there is the human side. That's where the experience comes in.
Mm-hmm.
This is important. We can never lose sight of that. And what we take for granted, they don't know. Our job is to educate and empower them to make good decisions.
Absolutely.
Every step of the way.
Yeah.
And we do that as an industry together.
Mm-hmm.
And we do that on an individual basis with our clients and our colleagues.
Sure. I mean, we do that on our end of it too. I mean, another one of our pillars is education.
Yes.
Because I want to empower the agent, that the title side of it, I'm still learning every day. There's something different that happens.
We're all
on a
learning
weekly
every
basis.
day. If we're not, something's wrong.
Right. I mean, and early on, that's how I learned. I learned by, I've never seen this before. Let me call underwriting counsel.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And as I grew in the business, it was great, because if I'm stumping underwriting counsel, I'm like, yes, good. He didn't know, so I'm good. So, but again, there was no fear in that. There was no fear in looking stupid. So, but arising out of that and being an independent title company, we were not affiliated with any brokerage or any lender. So we had to separate ourselves with service and the way we did things, right? So I think in coming...
You weren't what we call a captive title company. A captive title company, for people that don't know, is when a title company is, folded into a vertical part of a brokerage. They're owned by the brokerage.
Mm-hmm.
And there's several, examples of that. You are an independent.
Yes.
And so you work with all brokerages and all agents and all clients.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And part of that, one of our pillars is education.
Right.
I have numerous calls a day, a week, from, trying to navigate through issues that aren't anything that we're handling.
Right.
Right. It might be a listing agent calling me. This title company is saying this.
Right.
And I'm like, okay, it sounds like this.
Mm-hmm.
Do this and this, and then get back to me. Well,
I've
what's
done
going to
that
happen?
before.
Yes.
Yeah.
What's going to happen? I said, well, it sounds like there's an issue that it really isn't an issue, but they dropped the ball somewhere else.
Right.
So ask them this question.
Yes.
And then get back to me.
Yes.
Well, this is what they said. I'm like, okay, great. This just happened last week. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
great. Get the title commitment and this title search.
Right.
And let me see it. Because you can see that. In Pennsylvania, the agents are allowed to, you can be sent the title commitment on a transaction.
And we've had clients request to see it.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
So empower yourself with that, buyer,
Yes.
seller. You get to see the title commitment. You should be giving that to the buyer. You should be talking through with them on the requirements of what have, if there's some kind of an issue or a situation. But this specific agent, I said, ask for the title commitment in the search. She's like, well, what's going to happen? I'm like, first of all, I want to see this, what they're talking about, because I can answer it 4 or 5 different ways. But I'm guessing that when you ask for the title search and the title commitment, there'll be a magic wand that's waved and this issue will be solved. She's like, really? I'm like, just try it.
Yeah.
I didn't hear back. I reached out like 2 or 3 days later. How did it go with that? Oh, it's magically. I said, exactly. So empowering and educating is one of our pillars in that, so that you are armed to be able to represent your client at the highest level possible. So we take pride in that education for empowerment to the real estate agent.
So I think that sometimes what occurs, and if I were to say something that from my perspective as an agent, when I talk to different parties, whether it's a lender, an inspector, title, contractor, and as an agent, and I just had this conversation because I deal with so many different parties all the time, I stay in my lane as an agent. I'm not in your lane of title. You are the title expert. The lender is their area of expertise. So it's really important as professionals, we're operating on parallel tracks, that we are not intersecting, because that can become very messy.
Mm-hmm.
But you also have to know when to get the other parties involved and when questions come up, and to know who to ask, when to ask, and to be able to what I call in law school, they call it issue spotting. Can you issue spot and make it go away? So really, we do a lot of that. And I know that you're actively involved in that. I want to make it clear that, because, I get this question asked a lot, and especially sitting down here with you in title, I have no financial vested interest in you, your company, or any other company. As an agent doing business, which I feel so fortunate to be asked to do, I'm given a lot of opportunities to receive other financial benefits by sending people to any number of different entities, contractors, companies, you name it. I get approached by craziness all the time.
Yeah.
It is 1,000% my policy, and it has been. And I had the same situation in the inspection side. I was offered a lot. I never, and to this day, again, being a fiduciary for decades, my lane is my lane. I'm actively involved in helping someone either buy or sell. I have no financial vested interest in anything else other than that success. So if there is a benefit, because I have services that I actually pay for to benefit my clients, if there is a benefit to be derived, I want that extended to the client, never to me.
Right.
So I think that, in our business, there's so much that can happen. And so part of wanting to be here today was, when you're speaking with consumers, if you ever have questions about what is important, what should I look for in someone, again, I think that you have to make really wise decisions. I was thinking about this on the way here. I was talking to my hairdresser recently, and she goes, "Oh yeah, I just popped into our financial advisor and, so forth." And I thought, that's nice. And no one really gets emotional over the 401k. Well, maybe some people do. But, those are numbers on a page. And you're meeting with that professional because you trust them and you know that things are being handled. But real estate is a very personal asset. And it is very emotional because this is where you're going to be making those memories. You have actually a direct correlation of control to how that, you don't know, you just trust that you're going to pick your financial advisor, you're going to pick those funds or whatever your asset allocation is, and that's going to be properly handled. But you don't really have control beyond that selection. You don't control the markets,
right,
and how trading is going to go. But in your home, in your asset, you absolutely have a contribution to the outcome of what happens to that experience, the value, the physical side, the safety side. And again, this is where you're going to be making those memories and having those celebrations. And it is your haven in the world. But it's also the only asset that you can control in the asset class, which is one of the reasons it makes it so inefficient. So the understanding of that and how to parlay that to someone's benefit, to profit, becomes incredibly important.
It does.
Does that make sense?
It makes sense. Yeah.
And you all have been really wonderful in handling our clients because you know that working together, I don't have a type. I don't have a client type. There is an avatar. I definitely have a client avatar, but they come from all walks of life, from first time to luxury to very young to they're exiting to, a completely different chapter in their life through aging, death, divorce. I mean, so many different scenarios because everything plays out under the roof.
Yeah.
But the challenges that we're going to have in our industry, I think that it's going to be more and more important for people to understand the role of the professional. Do not look a reliance upon technology that is giving you misinformation. Data, and I can tell you this as someone who came from the stock market, because when you want to talk about data, that is data explosion. It's what you do with it. And that is where the professional steps in to understand what it means and how to position that person.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And you've been wonderful with that.
I appreciate you saying that. I mean, again, in our stance, we don't decide to be A game for some and not for others.
Right.
Right. We are A game.
Well, no, you don't.
All the time.
So
and I wanted to say that because, it's a culture that we have across the board. No
everyone
matter what.
gets the same level of service regardless of the value of their home.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the same. It doesn't matter 11,000 or 11 million.
It doesn't matter.
We treat everybody
with respect
at the highest level.
Yeah. And compassion, and very kind and compassionate.
Yeah, if you can put compassion into real estate, let me know how that works, because we will exude that.
So what I've asked you to do,
it's not reciprocated in certain fashion, but that's okay because internally, we it doesn't matter for us. We have our why. We have our why. It doesn't matter. So, we're in a thankless industry. For the most part. It's what have you done for me lately? It's a lot of that stuff that
of course,
that happens. For us, we don't
because
allow that.
It's very easy in title to think title transactional. And given the volume of business that you do, it's amazing that you do such an outstanding job. But I can tell you from personal experience, And you know that's why you had my own little cup made for me and my little Avenue to Close cup. But you've exhibited that compassion to my clients. You've gone to their homes when I've had clients that have experienced health problems, and you've been kind in extending in everyone that works here. And I know that I don't have to attend that. I know that you've got it, and that they're going to be treated with the respect that they deserve, and that kindness and compassion. Kindness is the most powerful currency on the planet, and it doesn't cost a thing.
Nope. It doesn't. It
No.
does not. Yeah. It's so awesome. Thank you for coming on here.
Thank you.
Yeah. We figured that out. Integrity. Integrity across the board.
Oh.
Just do the right thing. That's all. You know?
Well, I just, I appreciate you giving me this platform to spend some time with you. And if we reach people, I just hope that my hope is that they live their best life and that they are successful in whatever decisions that they decide to make.
Mm-hmm.
And that they feel really good about, that they have that outcome and experience, whatever that looks like for them.
Absolutely.
Life is such a gift.
Yeah.
No guarantees. It's all just such a gift.
Yes, it is.
Thank you.
Yes, it is. Thank you. This is Built Between the Lines. You're awesome.